I can't help myself. I've spent my entire life studying, learning, analyzing, and teaching the Bible, so my mind makes connections. In 2 Timothy, Paul talks about finishing well. Anybody can start the race, but it takes a lot of extra to finish it. Anybody can start a task. It takes some discipline to finish it. There's a vacant lot not far from me that illustrates this. Somebody bought the land, put in utilities, built a road, obviously planning a subdivision. Whoever it was ran out of money about 8 years ago, and the land has been sitting around doing nothing ever since. We find it's a good place to let our dogs run a little bit, and I like to go over there and play with my drones. We all know stories of runners who fell and got back up to finish the race. They might have stumbled in the middle, but they finished well. I'll talk more about this later. The gang is barbecuing, but John is running late.
We'll leave just as soon as John gets here.
Well, that office really gets their money's worth, don't they?
He's not at the office. He's doing volunteer work for the Citizens for a Better Government.
Well, if he ain't coming home till we get better government, we better eat now.
Fair point. So often it seems like we keep getting the new, improved, same old thing.
That's the whole trouble. Everybody always jokes about it.
Beats crying.
No, doing something about it beats both.
That's why John is working for the reform group.
Well, what are they going to try and reform? Not me, I hope.
They're hoping for an improvement, Chair. Not a miracle.
That's a relief. I was afraid we were looking at some kind of crazy magic cult.
Oh, by the way, honey, it was a really big night.
Yeah?
Yeah, they decided to run their own candidate for council.
Oh, that's terrific. That's what I mean by doing something.
Yeah, and you never guess what.
You're on the list of potential nominees.
Technically, I was right. I mean, she didn't guess.
Hey, look, Sally has ESP. Who knew? Right now, he's one of 8. But we don't need ESP to know who they're going to choose, do we? So who are these guys? Best I can tell, they're a group of guys who look for ways to improve government's functioning and all that. They seem to be pretty well connected.
Ah, good morning, John.
Good morning, Miss Metcalf.
Coffee?
No, thank you.
I understand you're getting involved in politics.
Well, yes, Sally and I have been doing some volunteer work for the Citizens for Better Government.
Evidently you made quite a hit.
Well,
Enough to be considered as candidate for council.
actually, there are 8 of us being considered.
Oh, I understand the list has been narrowed down to 4, and you were still on it.
Very well connected, even to Mr. Metcalf. Metcalf is behind him all the way. He'll be flexible about how much work John is able to do. After all, it's a civic duty. The fact that it brings tons of prestige and business to the firm is a side effect that he'll just have to suffer through. Sally and Annie are discussing how thoroughly these guys are investigating the Burtons when the phone rings.
Hello? Oh, yes, just a second. Annie, it's the bank. They want to know if they can disclose to a confidential group how much we have deposited.
I don't care if you don't care.
Well, I don't care. Besides, $119 doesn't sound like much of a disclosure.
If they investigated me, they'd find pretty much 0 cash, several musical instruments, a whole bunch of books, and everything else goes to cat food and treats. A co-host with a full tummy is a cooperative co-host.
Having completed our PSP, or preliminary selectivity process, during which we survey the community, formulate what I like to call our ICP, Ideal Candidates Profile, the next step is setting up the PAC, Potentially Acceptable Candidates.
But how much LSD did it take for you to come up with this BFD?
You've obviously done this before, Mr. Morgan.
Oh, yes. I've run campaigns from Alaska to Brazil.
From A to B, huh?
That sound you hear is the joke going over his head.
John, before your time, there was a man named Adlai Stevenson who ran for president.
Yes, I know.
He was a very witty man.
Yes, he was.
Had an amusing way of expressing himself.
Yes, that he did.
He lost.
That's not why he lost. The main reason I can see that he lost was he didn't want the job in the first place. Adlai Stevenson was governor of Illinois from 1949 to 1953. He was a serious reformer and spent a big part of his term rooting out corruption at all levels of the government. He started the process of revamping the state's constitution, though he wouldn't live to see the end result. In 1952, President Truman decided not to run for another term. You may remember Harry as the guy who dropped the atom bomb. In the primaries, the people had chosen Senator Estes Kefauver, but Truman and other party leaders didn't like him, so they started trying to draft Stevenson. He refused until he turned purple. He wanted to run for another term as governor since he was on a roll. But at the convention, they stuck his name on the list of candidates anyway. On the third ballot, he won. His campaign was lackluster at best. He didn't know how to use television, and he was running against Dwight D. Eisenhower, the hero of World War II. He never had a chance. I also wonder how many people got angry that their primary votes were shoved aside and voted against him out of spite. I have a feeling I might have. He did have a reputation for being funny. It's not surprising that Mr. Morgan thinks that's a liability. If he ever smiled, his jaw would fall off.
Norman Morgan, I'd like you to meet my wife and my brother Jerry.
How do you do? Sally Morgan, Forrester Burton. You have a minority interest in the store, a very good reputation in the local business community, and no known questionable friends or criminal activities.
Now I really want to hear what he says about Jerry.
I was wondering if tomorrow we could have lunch. It would give me the opportunity to explain to you your ICWRs. Ideal candidate's wife's responsibilities.
I don't know why he keeps using those acronyms when he always ends up explaining them anyway.
Oh, well, that's fine with me.
Now, I've done a survey on your eating habits, and it would seem to me that you're just about due for a pizza.
No offense, man, but you really are a nosy person.
Would 12:30 tomorrow at Mama Mordenti's be all right?
Well, it's a date.
Is something wrong, Mrs. Burton?
No, nothing at all. I'll see you tomorrow.
I wonder what pizza is an acronym for. Jerry has some ideas for John's slogan.
Things go better with Burton.
It's got a familiar ring.
That's because Coke did it first.
What is it, Sally? Is there something wrong?
It's Norman Morgan.
Well, I suppose in this age of the computer, he's the type of guy we need.
Well, I don't know if he's the type of guy we need, but I don't think he's the type of guy we want.
You're in real good hands with Burton.
Allstate, and they didn't say real.
I can read him, John.
You can't.
Yeah, and he was in a big hurry now to get to the bank to deposit his paycheck.
And?
Well, right offhand, how much money would you say a campaign manager like him would make?
Oh, I don't know. It's a pretty small campaign. Not very much.
Well, his check was for $25,000.
Hey, look, Sally has ESP. Who knew? It's about $130,000 today. For a small campaign, that's a big money.
Promise her anything, but give her a Burton.
Arpege. Jerry watches as much television as I used to.
Mr. Morgan, in a campaign like this, where does the money come from?
Donations. No drinks, no drugs.
Donations from where?
Oh, here and there. Now, you know, you can be a tremendous asset to your husband. In matters like this, image is the operable word.
Not to Sally. For her, money is the operative word. Tell her more about this image.
The candidate's wife must project herself as the perfect little helpmate.
How sweet.
The woman behind the man. Homemaker, loves cooking, cleaning, and caring for her guy.
What about doing your own thing?
Negative, 3.7, absolutely not. You must give the impression that your whole purpose in life is John. That without John, you are nothing.
I'm not used to seeing Dick Van Patten in this kind of role. Most people know him as Tom Bradford, the dad in 8 is Enough. Throw in his roles in the 1976 Freaky Friday, Spaceballs, and Robin Hood Men in Tights, and you have a guy that I expect to make me laugh. And even though he's delivering several punchlines, his demeanor and the way he's talking to Sally make me dislike him. I dislike disliking him.
Mr. Morgan, tell me, a campaign like this must cost a lot of...
Don't worry your head about that.
I mean, a man like you must make quite a lot.
Yes, but it's seasonal work. Oh, another thing. Now, how do I put this? You do plan on having a family, I'm sure.
Well, it is on the agenda.
Could you get started right away?
If she's reading what's in his head, I'm surprised she hasn't thrown water in his face.
There must be big backers, huh?
Oh, yes. Some give more than others, though, don't you know?
Don't you think it would be a good idea if we met those backers?
Well, perhaps it is time, yes. How would Friday be?
Well, Friday's fine.
Very good. I'll see you Friday.
Thanks to her something extra, she knows who those backers are, and it confirms what she and John already suspected.
Dare I?
Oh, no, and number 2 is just loaded with pepperoni.
Oh. How did you know I was thinking about number 2?
Oh, CWI.
CWI.
Candidate's wife intuition.
Very good.
Thought you'd like that.
She enjoyed that. That conversation was more than a little bit revealing, and Mr. Morgan really thinks he's got the little lady in his pocket.
A little nervous, huh?
Yeah, I am. You got to figure something's fishy when the backers are pouring so much money into a little campaign like this.
Right.
Still, we don't want to judge them unfairly. I mean, a lot of politicians are honest, right?
Yeah. But at least we have one thing in our favor.
What's that?
Well, if they're looking for a candidate that they can manipulate and use,
Yeah?
then they're going to eventually have to get that message across to you.
Let's go back them into a corner.
So, tell me, Mr. Brannigan, what does labor expect from the candidate?
Well, he's going to have to come out strong for the rights of the working man. Those guys out there on the assembly line, working in the pits. Great bunch of guys. Not afraid to get their hands dirty.
There's a nice manicure you have there, Mr. Brannigan.
Well, I used to work with my hands.
Shuffling papers and sorting your money don't count, Mr. Brannigan.
It's all well and good to come out strong, but you must remember there are practical matters, management's position.
Well, actually, by working with management, I can find out exactly what it really can afford. Sort of work out an understanding ahead of time.
Yes, what you're saying is that strikes and things like that are just sort of a formality.
There you go. I have to protect my image with the unions.
Hence the manicure, right?
So really what you're saying, Mr. Leonard, is that what business would like
Is business, son.
yes, and a certain amount of construction is necessary. Someone has to do it.
So why not buy a friend?
Especially an appreciative friend.
Not actually a very radical reform.
But the way things are done, huh, Mr. Leonard?
That's right, little lady.
Oh, he's gonna pay for that. She is little and she is a lady, but when he puts them together like that, it sounds like a swear word.
Now, the problems of injustice and the lack of equal opportunity are the things that concern me deeply.
Yes, and us too.
That's a very lovely caftan, Mr. Peterson.
Thank you. I had them custom made in Rome.
Oh, the awesome injustice. And who is he?
But as chairman of the minority coalition, just exactly...
John, a slow, sure approach might be the most constructive. Don't you agree?
A journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step.
Fine then, my man. Name a step and tell me what you figure to do.
You can't correct a century of
Injustice.
injustice. Right. Right.
But basically, you understand the problems that we all face.
Understanding is my business.
And it pays extremely well, as we can see. You get the feeling John was about to ask him what exactly it is that he does, and he didn't want to answer that. Understanding is fine. Doing is better. John and Sally will step outside for a moment so the money men can talk.
John, we like you.
Yes, we're all very pleased.
They're offering you the nomination.
For the Citizens for a Better Government?
Right, Johnny, you're our boy.
Gentlemen, as you know, I'm sort of a babe in the woods when it comes to politics. And when my wife suggested that we get involved, at least to learn something about it, I guess we never imagined how much you could learn in such a short time.
They don't have a clue what's coming.
You're a bright lad, John. And so is the little lady.
Thank you, sir. We've learned a great deal. Mr. Leonard, you've explained the importance of a close relationship with the construction industry. Mr. Peters, you've showed us a very clear understanding of the special problems that we all face in eliminating prejudice. Mr. Brannigan, you've certainly clarified the always sensitive problems of the working man. And most of all, you summarized your feelings best when you said, Johnny, you're our boy.
Here's the thing, gentlemen. He's a lawyer. Words are his profession. So he knows what you mean by that.
I'm not your boy. I'm not anybody's boy.
What do you mean?
Gentlemen, we got involved in politics because we didn't like what was going on. And because you all pretended to be men who were anxious for a change.
Well, we are anxious for a change. The incumbents had it.
But we thought a change meant improvement, not a piece of the action.
That right there is why nothing is going to change or improve until we get the money out of politics. I can't afford to buy an election, not even a local one. Can you? Why do we allow a few self-serving individuals to buy it all out from under us? Why aren't we holding our politicians accountable and demanding that they eliminate campaign contributions, PACs, war chests, lobbyists, all the money interests that keep the status quo in their favor? Create a pool of campaign money. Each candidate at each level gets a certain amount. If they blow it all on one Super Bowl ad, well, then they're screwed for the rest of the season, and it was their choice. How about an even field all around for the first time in the country's history?
Look, it's bad enough that you misrepresented yourselves to us, but to misrepresent the people who depend on you for help.
Your stockholders, Mr. Leonard.
Your workers, Mr. Brannigan.
Your brothers, Mr. Peters. I mean, that's pretty low.
Now, just a minute, little lady.
I am not a little lady. And I am not a woman behind the man. I am a person who wants something better.
Find yourselves a different lapdog, gentlemen, because we're done here.
Let me hear that again, Morgan, about how great the kid looks.
And being a winner.
Listen, gentlemen, it's all in the computer. It's nothing personal.
25 cheese was pretty personal.
Perfect. You would have been absolutely perfect.
Except for one flaw. Character.
You'll find it right next to humor in your book of words you'll never understand.
John, you were so terrific, honey. I'm so proud of you.
So ends another promising political career.
Not at all. You know, I think Jerry had the right picture.
What, councilman?
I think you can skip a few steps.
Senator. The White House.
Sir,
Yes, my dear, what is it?
I'd like to kiss your face.
Your president is here to serve.
President. He thinks the vultures were circling at this level. They may have given up politics, but Jerry hasn't given up campaigning.
All right, Mr. Kennedy. Chair. Ladies, if you will. Oh, we need a little work yet. Gladys, you gotta move it. Isn't that good?
John, don't you think there's something we ought to tell Jerry?
No, honey. I think he'd prefer to just go right on rehearsing.
His name's Burton. Who knows? Maybe Jerry can run. We know those guys can't manipulate him. He wouldn't have a clue what they were talking about. This was a pretty heavy topic for a sitcom's final episode, but why not? And Sally's ESP was the key to the plot the way it used to be. We had a subject that's important to all of us. We showed a little behind the scenes of a campaign in the 70s. John and Sally got to make monkeys out of the professional manipulators, and Jerry got to wear that hat. I'm gonna miss Jerry. He was fun. Sally Field did some one-offs after this, but just 3 years later came Smokey and the Bandit, and she was a household name again. John Davidson continued singing and doing the occasional acting job. He seems to have enjoyed himself. Zora Lampert tried one other series called Doctor's Hospital that lasted 16 episodes, and she went back to character acting. Jack Sheldon was already an established character actor and musician, so he kept doing what he was doing. Stephanie Edwards, who played Angela, moved to radio and TV announcing, and for many years was the co-host of the Tournament of Roses parade. The show had possibilities, but poor writing and a lack of overall vision negated them. If you're going to create something that's reasonably new like this, that's great. We have a newlywed couple and she can read his mind. But we dove into it before we asked the question, where do we take something like that? Nobody considered the wider plot and what it should be. So after a few episodes, the newlywed couple aspect became the focus, and sometimes the ESP thing was completely forgotten. But I have to say, toward the end, they found it again, and that led to an excellent final episode. Nicely done, girl with something extra. You finished well. Hi, friends. This will be the last episode of TV Fails, at least for a while. I'm stretched a little thin right now, creating shows 6 days a week, plus working to wrap up my album, and something has to go. To be blunt, TV Fails is my least popular program, so I'm going to put it on hiatus. But everything else is continuing as usual, so feel free to poke around the channel and enjoy it all. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon. I'll be flexible. Flat was more than a little bit. Jerry will run. Why do we allow it? Why do we allow it?